Do you know what? I suddenly realised today that the Springboks had named their first squad of 2025 and I thought, maybe it's time to do a video on it. I know I've been terrible with uploading this year for a whole variety of reasons, but Rassie's first official Springbok squad of 2025 I thought was a pretty good reason to do a video. I know they've had their alignment camps, but this is kind of the squad that they're going to take forward. They've got a couple of test matches against Italy coming up and then Georgia, and so welcome back to the channel. My intention is to keep doing videos, by the way. For those of you that don't know, I did mention it in a video I did a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to be off on the Lions tour. I'm going to be in Australia for the full tour, covering the Lions and doing interviews and all sorts. So there's going to be loads more stuff on the way, but I appreciate those of you that have stayed loyal massively, actually, and I can only apologise. It's one of those things, it slips off the radar between work and life and things getting busy. But the Springboks have named their squad. So as I say, welcome back. Do hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like the video as well and drop a comment down below. What stands out to you? Because the first thing is 54 players. It is not a small squad that Rassie Erasmus has gone for. And why would you, I suppose? When you've got the talent, when you've got the depth, why not get everyone together? The other thing as well actually here is players from Leinster, the Bulls, Sharks, Bath, Leicester and Sale could have a staggered approach to when they join the squad because they're still involved in knockout domestic rugby this weekend. They might be involved in finals, or some of them definitely will be involved in finals. So that's part of the reason as well. And in terms of the injured players, Frans Malherbe, Elric Lowe, Ben Jason Dixon, Dion Fourie and Trevor Nyakane. Those are the players that are injured. So the first thing I wanted to speak about is the big squad. We've seen the Springboks have a big squad before, and almost as much as any other nation, I don't think anyone uses really more players than the Springboks. I don't know if that is absolutely factually correct, but we saw it last year, didn't we? They used over 50 players last season, plus what I've just mentioned, that a lot of those players are still with their clubs. I actually think the reason for a 54-player squad makes an awful lot of sense. And as I said just a moment ago, I guess you kind of look at it, and we know the depth of talent still there is absolutely huge. The depth of talent coming through is massive. So you kind of want to balance those two things. And even if it does take players 3-4 years to maybe properly break into the setup, at least if you do have them in plenty of squads and training camps and they don't necessarily play, at least they are accustomed to the environment. They know what's expected of them. And so when that opportunity does arrive, they feel more comfortable in that environment. So I think from that point of view, it makes a lot of sense. It's also a squad which is packed full of experience, 31 World Cup winners in it. And it's always interesting to me because, and I think I've said it a lot over the last couple of years really on this channel when I've spoken about the Springboks, is something that I think defined the 2019 team going into the 2023 World Cup was their ability to refresh that squad. And so I keep wondering, when is that going to happen this time around? Off the back of 2023, kind of, when are some of those players going to start filtering away and new players coming through? And because you look at the age profile of some of the players in the team, there are a number of guys there that you think at the next World Cup are going to be well into their 30s. But actually, the more I think about it, the more it makes way more sense to me that it's not going to be this sudden drastic change, but it's going to be more gradual, and that we'll probably see a few guys start to drop out and other players come in and take their spot because of the young players they've got in this team. So rather than having the kind of defining line in the sand changing moment, which I suppose, for example, England did post-World Cup 2019, post-World Cup 2023, partly because they had to with players retiring, but also I think there was a pretty definitive selection shift. The Springboks seem to take a different approach, and I think it's smart. I think all of a sudden we'll be there thinking, oh yeah, this guy, and this guy who have been there previously aren't anymore. But look at these guys that have come through, that have been there a while, that have been drip-fed into international rugby, and now they're the starters with 20 caps and they're good to go. So again, it's something that I always seem to be drawn to with this squad. And with Springbok squads, for when they're going to have an overhaul. And actually, maybe I'm looking at it in the wrong way. There's not going to be an overhaul as such. And it's worth mentioning as well, the importance of experience. If you've got experience, just because guys are in their 30s, if they're still good enough and they've won a couple of World Cups before, then you still have them in that environment and in your setup, until someone else comes along and takes their spot. So the squad itself, 54 names. I put them up on the screen just a moment ago. I'll use this graphic as well, which was from Jared Wright on Twitter. If you don't follow him, do go and give him a follow. So credit him for this graphic, 'cause it's really, really useful, I think, in terms of breaking down the squad. There is so much depth. Even with the players missing, there is so much depth in this squad. I think in particular, if you look at second row and back row, it's in other areas as well, some of the prop options. But you look at the second rows and it's like so many good players, so many World Cup winners. And you actually kind of look at it, like if you're a young player in South Africa, if you're a really talented young player, like you almost have to be world class to be able to get a shot at your national team. Now that is an awesome position to be in and speaks to the quality of players that they possess, but it must be maddening, isn't it? Like it's so frustrating for them. So many good options in the second row, so many good options in the back row. You've got Faf de Klerk back in there. It's great to see him back, by the way. Like there is depth all over this team, all over this squad. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. So I want to talk about one absentee in particular. I know there's other players you could mention, but that's Evan Roos. Like what doesn't align here? Now, on the one hand, it could be what I've just said, which is depth and experience and the amount of quality options that they have available. Some people have to miss out and they could be really good players, but there seems to be something for me with him that has just never quite progressed in a Springbok sense in the way that maybe I anticipated and I think other people possibly anticipated as well, or something that just means he hasn't necessarily kicked on. He hasn't quite fit into this squad or become the mainstay that I've maybe expected. And I wonder why that is. And whether it is just simply down to quality or whether it's something else going on there. But that's always one that I find really fascinating. Why is he not there? Springbok fans, let me know what you think. Load of uncapped players as well. My eye is in particular drawn to Cobus Wiese and Joanna Augustus because they play in the Premiership. Marnus van der Merwe, though, is I think a great story because he's been going really great guns for the Scarlets in the URC. Another option at hooker where you've got Bongi and Malcolm Marks still there, but could we see him a little bit this year as well? I'm going to get on to Ntokozo Makaza. I think I've said that right. I hope I have. I'm going to get on to him quickly on Cobus Wiese and Joanna Augustus. Cobus Wiese, I always liked him at Sale. Feels like Sale in England is like one of the main teams that South African players come to and then kind of kick on and get themselves into the Springbok setup. When you look at Jean-Luc Dupré, I know he's still there, and Faf de Klerk, for example. But Cobus Wiese I was always impressed with in the Premiership for Sale. Does he get himself in an opportunity in this squad? Maybe for some of those games against Georgia or Italy, for example, which the greatest respect to those opposition, the Springboks should have more than enough to beat them. So maybe that's when we'll see some of the uncapped players or the players with less experience given more of an opportunity. But Joanna Augustus in particular, he has had an awesome season for Northampton. They're going to miss him when he departs the club. Like, he has been immense. Big ball carrying number 8. I'd love to see him get an opportunity, certainly off the back of his form in the Premiership is well worthy of that call-up. And then that guy I just mentioned, Ntokozo Makaza. Now, obviously, I haven't seen much of him because I think outside of South Africa, I don't think anyone really has. And I've been reading about him this year, seen him named in this squad as well. And have I got this right? I saw someone say his first game of professional rugby could be for the Springboks. What a story. What an unbelievable story that would be. So he played Varsity Cup, so university in Cape Town, didn't get a contract out of school, went to uni, presume he's there on a scholarship, has torn it up in the Varsity Cup, got called up to the alignment camps and now is in the training squad and could get capped by the Springboks before he plays for Cheetahs, I think I'm correct in saying, is where he's going to be next season. It's a great story. Like, I absolutely love it. From what I've seen, and from what I've seen, as I say, isn't so much live stuff, but is on YouTube and highlights and things like that, he is another explosive, exciting winger. He's been kicking as well at the level he's been playing. I don't know if that's going to translate over, but certainly someone to keep an eye on. Certainly someone I'm going to be keeping far more of a keen eye on, and certainly someone that I think the rest of the world probably look at the Springboks, and I look at it as an England fan and think, another ridiculously talented, explosive, bags of pace winger. Like, the talent in that country is the envy of the world, I think. But he's another guy. What a story. What a story. What a player. One other position I will mention is Andre Esthuizen in the centre, because I saw so much of him in the Premiership. I know we've seen him for the Springboks before, and he has come into that team more and more over the last few years. I just wonder whether it is going to get to the place... Are we going to get to a place where he starts at 12? And if so, would that shift Dialende to 13? I know Dialende and Creel have been like just the most reliable, rock-solid centre combination for the Springboks, most capped centre combination in Springboks history. But Esthuizen had a very good URC season with the Sharks. And I just wonder whether he will end up being the starting 12 because of what he gives you. In particular, I think, of the safety net he gives your fly half. So I think Quins have seen this massively of Marcus Smith. Marcus Smith was at his best in the Premiership when he had Andre Esthuizen at 12, because when things were on the back foot a little bit or there wasn't too much space, you have an inside centre you can pop it off to and he gets you over the game line, and then a fly half like Marcus Smith can do what he does, which is maybe, you know, Amani Libok or a Sasha Feinberg, Zulu. These guys could really benefit from having him at 12. I know Dialende is world-class himself, but I think Andre Esthuizen is one of the best, if not the best, inside centres in the world at getting you over the game line, and could be a real asset in that sense. So that was one of the other things that, when I looked at this squad, really stood out to me. I'll leave it there. Give me your comments down below. What do you make of the squad? Who stands out to you? Who do you think's missed out? What do you make of it more generally? And as I say, welcome back. I appreciate you watching. I will try and upload more and more. Certainly going to be covering loads around the Lions once we get to the Rugby Championship. And I suppose from a South Africa point of view, the games in particular, we'll see what the Wallabies look like after they've played the Lions. They might kick on from last year and pose more of a threat and more of a challenge than we've seen in previous years. But in particular, the games against the All Blacks in the Rugby Championship, and I think that game against France at the end of the year and that game against Ireland, like those are the ones that I think this Springbok team, that they'll kind of have circled a little bit, and they're pretty appetising. So let me know, comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Welcome back, appreciate you watching. See you in the next one.